When resigning from a job, we have to learn how to separate our feelings from our logic. Listen, feelings will have us with no network, no professional acquaintances, and a tarnished professional reputation. So often we get caught up in our feelings unnecessarily, and that turns into us acting petty. And yes, I said it, petty. A resignation notice less than 2 weeks? That's petty.
Wow, Sinatra.
Another day, another dollar. I'm saving just to be broke. They said college was serious, but my degree feel like a joke. 4 years or less, I'm saying I got it done. No playing, just to end up at my mom's after I told her I wasn't staying. Well, here we are. No question, I'm a star. Just got some light years to travel, but it's just so far. But I'ma make it though. Make sure you get your focus right. You coming too? It's about to be one hell of a ride. Yeah, this adults and stuff is crazy. They ain't warn us about this. I'm supposed to live my best life on an unpaid internship. I'm supposed to find my husband. Everybody running game. I guess the more things change, the more they stay the same. Went from worrying about on flow to running from Uncle Sam. Now I understand why student accounts never gave a damn. Saving accounts be slipping, trying to work out, but I'm tripping. I forgot health insurance. Oh, I'm my mom until I'm 26, so I gotta pay these student loans. That's adults. With the score doing the most. That's adulting. Moving out of mom's house. That's adulting, but it's all gonna work out. That's adulting. I need a legal side hustle. That's adulting, cause these bills got me in trouble. That's adulting. Journey's course is never planned. That's adulting. So just leave it in God's hands, cause that's adulting.
Hey classmates, welcome back to another episode of the School of Life podcast. Listen, thank you to everyone that voted on our new community name because I told y'all friends was just not it. I was honestly a little nervous that y'all wouldn't like classmates, but that was so unnecessary because y'all liked it, y'all DM'd me, y'all voted, and y'all know I am always appreciative. So, hey classmates. Anyways, y'all, today I have to acknowledge that I am making history on the podcast. I had a little moment to truly take it in when I was working on my outline because it all just didn't feel real, but I know it is. But today marks my 6th consecutive episode release, which has never, ever, ever happened. And at first I was like, that's a shame, girl. You had this podcast for almost 4 years. But then I was like, look, life was lifing. A whole pandemic happened. You moved a few times. Like, it was just a lot going on. So we are going to celebrate the wins and give it up for 6 consecutive episodes. Let me tell you, with a little bit of consistency and discipline and showing up for yourself and having a really good support system, anything is possible. But that's another episode for another day because I feel like I have to just unpack showing up for yourself altogether. So we'll just save that. Today, I want to build off of last week's episode and talk about how to properly write a resignation letter whenever you decide to leave a job. I know last week we talked about purpose to paycheck and getting out of the 9-to-5 rat race. And I was like, well, when the people decide to leave their 9-to-5, I want them to leave it properly. So let me give them some tips. Before we get into it, y'all know the drill. Grab your note-taking tools because School of Life is now in session. Aside from building from last week's episode, I felt that this was a great conversation to have because the streets have been talking. And you want to know what the streets said? They said that y'all are just up and quitting these people's jobs with no notice, no conversation, no decorum, no nothing. And I cannot have you out here being rude like that. Now, before y'all come for me about how rude the job might have been to you and how they made your entire existence just total crap, I'm gonna be real. I do not want to hear it. And I'm gonna tell you why. You know where you've been, but you don't know where you're going. And if no one has taught you, I am going to be the one to teach you. Listen, so often we get caught up in our feelings for unnecessary reasons. And when deciding to leave a job, we need to operate from logic. So in that sense, your feelings and your logic need to be completely separate. We have to learn how to separate logical decisions from decisions that do require our feelings, right? Working in your feelings will have you with no network, no professional acquaintances, and your professional reputation will be tarnished. Imagine applying for a job in like 3 to 5 years and a former colleague ends up being the boss there. They're going to remember, no, little Sue did not even give us a 2 weeks notice. Or imagine starting your own business and your former company is putting out an RFP, by the way, that means request for proposal, and you're interested in responding to that. You're definitely not getting it, right? So the more that you operate within logic, the better that one, your reputation will be, and then two, really just your network. Because like I said, you know where you've been, but you don't know where you're going, and you don't know, where life will put you in a couple of years. Another example, just imagine some years go by and life gets hard and you say, let me see if XYZ company has something open. I kind of did like, what I was doing there. If you left the company in a bad way, that job is not yours. And let me tell you, I know from experience. Y'all know I love talking about my own real life experiences. True story. When I left NASA a few years ago, I gave them, I believe, a week and a half notice. It might have just been a week. Now, this was Jaye, who I knew better, honestly. I didn't do better. I don't know. I was being petty. This is why you're not going to make the same mistake. But they had did me wrong. So I'm saying all the things that you would say, right? Like, they did me wrong. I'm not going to get into all the details, but just know I was furious. I'm like, you know what? I found a new job. I'm not giving them 2 weeks notice. I'm giving them a week. And I think the week ended up being like a holiday week. It was just a mess. I was wrong for that. But whatever the case, fast forward, that was 2019. Fast forward to 2023, I recently applied to a job that I saw, and I was like, oh, this is great. Maybe the culture there has shifted. Surely I can do this job. And let me tell y'all, not even 48 hours later, I got a Dear John. That's how bad it was. And I just had this moment where I was like, maybe it's because I didn't leave on such good terms. Now, I do have to put a disclaimer out there that was a little out of my character because it's not like me to be unprofessional. But I came to the realization that, girl, let's call a spade a spade. You were in your feelings, right? And so me being in my feelings caused me to not be logical and do the right thing and be a true professional when deciding to leave said job. Now, I do want to acknowledge that leaving a job is standard. So no one's saying like, don't leave your job. If you get fed up, you can't do X, Y, Z. You honestly can do whatever you want to. But I just want to share that there's a way in which we do everything, especially when our reputations are attached to it. So today, I am going to share 5 tips for leaving your job without burning bridges, which is very, very important. Like I said, we know which bridge we walked across. We may have to walk back across some of them, so don't be like me. So here we go. Tip number 1, always tell your boss in person and don't tell your colleagues before you tell your boss, especially if you work in a very large corporation where the people chitter chatter. Just tell your boss, not your colleagues. We don't need the mess. We don't need the gossip. Number 2, give at least 2 weeks notice in writing. Now, I want to pause right here because you're going to tell your boss in person and then you're going to follow up with an email, with your nice little letter. You always want to have that in writing. And at the end of my 5 tips, we'll talk about how to actually write your resignation letter. But listen, put it in writing. I'll do a whole nother episode on why everything needs to be in writing. But put your 2 weeks notice in writing, okay? Number 3, after you put your notice in, finish strong. And you may even want to offer to train your replacement. Now, that's if the company did well by you and, they were nice and you're leaving on good terms. There have been some roles where I was leaving and it was a bittersweet leaving. So I was like, hey, for my last 2 weeks, I'll even help you guys find a replacement. I'll train that replacement. I remember putting together a standard operating procedures binder. Like, I just did it up for my replacement because I really, really liked that job. Shout out to Dr. Kara Walker. I love her. But yeah, finish strong and offer to train your replacement if, it calls for that. Number 4, express gratitude and ditch the baggage, okay? You want to leave the job with the utmost gratitude. You do not want to carry the negative, toxic energy into your next career. So don't let the previous experience, get you so caught up in wanting to be mad, bad-mouthing the company. Like, don't do that because honestly, that's not cute. And if you get to a new company, bad-mouthing the old company, please believe me, someone's going to notice and they're going to automatically label you whatever they decide to label you. So, have the utmost gratitude. Even if it didn't work out, you can still be appreciative, of the experience. And then number 5, be helpful even after you leave. This kind of goes into, having a positive attitude. So if there is something that comes up, maybe it's a news article or an opportunity that may be a good fit for your previous employer, if you still have that relationship, share that news article, share that opportunity. You never know where something like that will lead, especially if the company, if you guys parted on good terms. Prime example, there were many things that came up after I left one of my amazing jobs with the state of Delaware. And I would always either email it to my former boss, text her, like just kind of staying in the loop, like, hey, I thought of you guys. I saw this new bill pass. I hope you guys aren't affected. Like those small little things. Now, I'm not saying go out of your way to do the most. And I do understand that sometimes when you leave a job, you're just done. But if you can be helpful, be helpful. So, for a short recap, the 5 ways to not burn bridges when leaving a job. Number 1, tell your boss in person, not your colleagues. We're not going to do gossip. Number 2, give at least a 2 weeks notice. If you can give more, that's cool. Number 3, finish strong and offer to train your replacement, if you can. Number 4, express gratitude, ditch the baggage. And number 5, be helpful even after you leave. Now, I do want to put a disclaimer out there that I totally understand that a lot of these tips that I'm sharing are spoken in the context of good working relationships, but some of these can absolutely apply if your relationship with your former employer was not so good. The biggest thing here, we're going to be like Michelle Obama, right? We're going to aim to take the high road. We are not going to go low like the others have done. So aim to take the high road, aim to be the bigger person. I don't want to hear you whining and complaining about not wanting to be the bigger person in this situation because your reputation is on the line. And just because 1 or 2 people made the job bad, and it could have been more than that, but it's a small number compared to an entire company. So, y'all got this. Now let's talk about how to actually write the letter. This is going to be short and brief. I'm not sure how you've written a resignation letter before. It's not super hard, but one thing that I'm going to really hit on here is not talking too much. I've seen people, write resignation letters explaining their whole life. These people do not need to know the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why. So we're going to talk about that. But I have a few tips for actually writing your resignation letter. The first one, always put the dates on the paper. One thing that y'all are going to learn about me when I give professional advice, I am putting everything in writing. I'm putting the date on it. There's going to be a timestamp somewhere. Like, listen, y'all know what happened to me at that raggedy job, in that one county. Because of that, I write everything down and I date everything. So you want to make sure that the date is at the top of your resignation letter. That way that your intentions are clear and is clearly communicated to your boss as well as HR when you put this resignation letter in and when you'll be leaving. The second thing, this goes back to what I was saying about the details. Don't go into details. Point blank, period. There is no need to go into a lot of explaining about why you're leaving and where you're going next and all of that. That's not necessary. The most important thing is that you convey that you're resigning and when your last day will be, and that's it. Okay? Don't give them the whole life story. They don't want to know. Actually, they may be nosy and they do want to know, but it's not your responsibility and you don't owe them that, okay? The third thing here, always express gratitude. So even if they were the crappiest, you wanted to slap them every single day that you walked into that office. Express gratitude. Remember to thank them for the opportunity because no matter how horrible it might have been, it's still an opportunity that you'll have learned from and that you are carrying with you. So thank them for their opportunity and take this time to make good out of what might have been a negative situation. The next one, offer assistance. You don't have to go all out of your way to offer this assistance, but just saying, maybe you'll write the job description for the next employee. Maybe you'll train that employee. Maybe you will finish a project that is really critical to the organization. Like whatever you can do to offer your assistance. Again, it doesn't have to be too crazy, but outline this in your letter. Then you want to provide your contact information. So make sure they know how to reach you outside of your company email and company phone number. Sometimes employers will do exit interviews after the fact. Like there's just a number of things that may come up after your final day. So make sure your proper contact information is there. And then lastly, make sure you edit it, okay? Y'all know I work in comms. I am a stickler for editing and making sure that your grammar, your tense, like all of that, make sure it's put together. Just because for me, it's like I want this to be the perfect representation of why I'm leaving and how I'm leaving, and here it is. So be professional, be polished. Don't be like, what up, gang? I'm out of here. Like, save that for the group chat. Do not get crazy with the letter. So edit, and edit again. And if needed, get someone else to read your letter because you also want to make sure that you're editing for language that may seem hostile. Y'all know how we can get sometimes. You don't want any of that to, appear in your resignation letter. And then the last thing I want to say on this topic, y'all, before we get out of here, resignation letters and just resigning from a role in general, they're not a bad thing. Like, it's not a bad concept. I just want you to be prepared and know how to do it properly because at the end of the day, how you leave says more about you than it does the company. And so we can be bitter, we can be mad, we can have an attitude, we can want to write all the negative Google reviews in the world, but all it does is reflect back on us. And so even in those times of chaos and craziness and wanting to slap someone in the workplace, we want to leave on the high note because our reputation is on the line, not the company's. All right, y'all, before we get out of here, y'all know what time it is. Homework. That is a good jingle. All right, for your homework this week, it's real simple. If you're planning to leave your job within the next 6 months, I want you to draft your resignation letter and plan how you would have the conversation with your boss, okay? So draft your letter using the tips that I've shared. Get on Google, find you some more tips. Listen, you can even use Chat GPT, whatever the thing is called, the AI thing. You can use that to write you a good resignation letter, whatever it is. Draft the letter and just write a short little plan of how you would have that conversation with your boss. A quick example of how to have that conversation is requesting a meeting. So something that I've done, I requested a meeting to talk about my future at the company. That normally gives your boss like a little heads up of what this will be about, so they're not completely blindsided. And you use that time to thank them, to talk about the positives and to let them know that you will be moving on such and such date. So boom, if you're planning to leave your job in the next 6 months, draft your letter and then plan how you will have that conversation with your boss. And then if you're not planning to leave and you just love your job, that is great. I'm happy to hear that. Just send this episode to someone who is planning to leave their job, okay? We all know someone who is looking for their next bag. And then lastly, this is going to be standing homework. Leave me a voicemail. It can be about your job, your resignation letter, where you're listening from, anything. I just want to hear from you. All right, friends, that wraps up another episode of the School of Life podcast. As always, I hope you learned something new or gained some sort of new life insight, because that is why this podcast exists. Listen, we're all in this together. Keep fighting, keep pushing, keep evolving. Talk to you soon.
Gotta pay these student loans. That's adults with the score doing the most. That's adulting, moving out of mom's house. That's adulting, but it's all gonna work out. That's adulting. I need a legal side hustle. That's adulting, 'cause these bills got me in trouble.